Welcome back to Billy's Books. It's been a while because I've been reading a thick book. This is Dave McCullough's The Path Between the Seas, which is about the Panama Canal. A man, a plan, Panama. People generally think that was Teddy Roosevelt who was the man, but before Teddy Roosevelt, the great American president, there was the Panama Canal was a French undertaking led by a guy named de Lesseps, who was the hero of the Suez Canal, which is a great success for him, and he became a national hero as a result of doing that so well. He was so charming and loved by everyone that even though he sometimes got things wrong, everyone believed him. He was a little stubborn about the idea that it should be a sea-level canal with no locks, so much so that people stuck with it, even though when they gathered a whole bunch of scientists to decide what the plan should be, de Lesseps was like, no, it's already decided, I've decided it, and we're just going to act like I've already decided, and you all agree, even though many of you don't. En français, of course. Because there was one French guy, whose name I don't remember, who appeared, and he was an engineer, and he said, if you do it the way you guys are planning right now, a lot of people are going to die because of whatever, all the malaria and yellow fever, as well as the dangers of landslides and everything like that, and just the general tropicalness, and the fact that it was pretty much impossible to do a sea level carving through the whole isthmus. So the other plan, he proposed, this other guy back way decades before it happened, proposed that they should do locks and create a central lake and have locks go up to it and locks go down to it, and everyone was like, no, 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 and the French kept on allocating things and losing money and losing people. They lost a lot of people to yellow fever and malaria. There were some rumors that maybe mosquitoes were responsible for conveying that instead of miasma, which is stinky crap. That's because they didn't know about germs back then. And it didn't work, and so for example they had lots of mosquitoes, but they also had some other problems with these other critters, and so back in those days they would actually, mosquitoes grow in little pools of still water. And it just so happens that when they had, even in the hospitals or everywhere, they had other problems with other critters. Ants, I think it was, fire ants were getting onto people. So if you had like a bed, the bed would have 4 legs, and they would have each of the little legs going into a little tin of water so that the ants couldn't cross it and climb up and get you. However, of course, that tin of water, 1, 2, 3, 4 per bed in a hospital of people suffering from malaria and yellow fever, each of those had 4 tins or pans of still water right by them. No screens in the windows. Of course, things just got worse and worse. They had a whole bunch of plagues, and people freaked out, and people came, people went. It was also rather unorganized. That's the French part. Then they eventually lost a lot of money and gave up. Oh, the shame. A couple decades later, they picked it up. The Americans made a lot of the same mistakes until they got the right guy in charge. And of course, one of my favorite presidents, William Howard Taft, he took charge. He wasn't president yet. He was still just Roosevelt's right-hand man. So Taft came and said, you got to do it this way, and suddenly everything was cooler. But it wasn't until the guy, Gorgas, who said, no, the mosquito is the way to do it. I actually got rid of all the plagues in Cuba a little while ago. You should listen to me. The first guy didn't, so people kept on dying for a year or two. New guy came in, Gorgas was the guy. A new guy came in and said, okay, I don't really believe you about this mosquito thing, but that's your thing, so we'll give you enough supplies to make it happen. A few months later, yellow fever was gone. What do you know? Anyway, they eventually came up with the plan that the original French dude had said that everyone ignored, and that's where I am. But it's a pretty intense, if you're into, this is actually history without people killing each other, which is always very fun. A lot of engineering stories and sort of a lot of intrigue and funny stories about, wives coming and going and all sorts of stuff. But anyway, it's a pretty fat book. I like fat books, like I like my fat presidents. William Howard Taft, Roosevelt's right-hand man. Roosevelt was kind of chunky himself. Anyway, this is an interesting book. If you like history without war, this is one of them. They do allude to the Spanish-American War, because that was that's something that Taft and Roosevelt got into a little bit on the side in the Philippines and things like that, and of course Cuba. I think it's a good book. I wouldn't be reviewing it otherwise. I'm not the kind of guy that does bad reviews. If you can't do review, this one's good.